Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the February 4, 2021 Romeo Planning Zoom meeting. We're going to start with roll call. Cindy?
Stegner?
Here.
Webb?
Here.
Hall?
Here.
Foltz? Fowler?
Yes.
Smiles?
Here.
Stevens?
Here.
Carr?
Yes.
Grandstaff?
Here.
Okay. I'd like to, we move on to approval of our agenda. I want to make a motion that we make a change in the agenda under unfinished business. I'd like to have probably a small discussion about our master plan. So I'm going to make a motion that we add that to our agenda. Anybody want to second that?
Second.
Mr.
Okay.
Webb?
Mr. Webb seconded.
Yes.
So the motion on the table is to add discussion of the master plan to our unfinished business. Cindy, you want to do the roll call?
Sure. Grandstaff?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Stevens?
Yes.
Smiles?
Yes.
Fowler?
Yes.
Hall?
Yes.
Webb?
Yes.
Stegner?
Yes. Okay, motion to approve the meeting minutes from November 5th, 2020. Wow.
So moved.
Okay, motion on the table to approve the November 5th meeting minutes. Roll call.
Who is that supported by? It was
I
motion
did.
by
I'll support.
Grandstaff.
I'll support.
Is that Fowler?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I don't think that went right, but go ahead.
Fowler?
Yes.
Hall? Hall?
Uh-oh. No sound from Lisa.
Yes. Yes.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa. Smiles?
Yes.
Foltz? No. Stevens?
Yes.
Carr?
Yes.
Stegner?
Yes.
Webb?
Yes.
And Grandstaff?
Yes.
So motion passes. Now we move on to the public forum.
Actually, excuse me, Chairman.
Yes.
We have to approve the agenda.
I thought we did that when I made a motion to make a change.
Was that for the approval of the agenda with that
Yeah.
motion? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you. Sorry.
So now we move on to public forum. Anybody out there have any comments they'd like to make? Any suggestions for the Planning Commission? No. All right, we'll move on to new business. First, let's welcome our new Planning Commission member, Nolan Kerr. I don't see his picture, but I know I did see it.
I'm here.
There he is. No. So there you are. So you're going to take the citizen planner course?
Yes. Yep. I think I'm all signed up to take it.
That's
Yes.
cool. You'll like it. I thought it was interesting. It was way more interesting than what I expected. I think you're going to be teaching Mr. Casson again. Is that right?
I'm going to be teaching 3 out of the 6 sessions.
Okay. Yeah. He's good. You'll like him. I can vouch for that. Okay. So let's move on to Planning Commission review for 2020. Everyone has a sheet on that. Of course, mine is somewhere. Cindy, you want to call out the stuff we did, or how do you want to do?
Yeah, I can. January 2020, we did a master plan meeting and a bylaws discussion. In February, we had a master plan discussion with Steve Casson. bylaws review and proposed amendment to the fence ordinance. In March, we did an AT&T mobility site plan approval, sign regulation, draft review, zoning admin vote, and bylaws review. April and May were canceled. June, we did a medical and recreational marijuana review, a blight ordinance review, and a site plan review form. July, we had a site plan review, meeting calendar of dates, master plan update, medical and recreational marijuana ordinance review and recommendations, and a proposed amendment to the Village of Romeo zoning code. In August, we did a site plan review, village to city report from President Malzahn. September, we had a public hearing for a special land use. October meeting was canceled. November meeting, Steve Casson did a review. Dr. Delora Dental site plan approval, rental property ordinance, and blight elimination ordinance. And December, the meeting was canceled. And that was 2020 review.
Does anybody have any comments on the year in review?
Someone there.
Okay, let's move on to item 3, the Central Business District first floor retail requirements. We just went through that with AAA. Anybody have any thoughts on it? I do, but no. Okay, I had a lengthy discussion with Mark Clark, the village lawyer, and his suggestions about retail only on the first floor are to just sort of let it rest until we get a master plan done. So I don't know how you feel about that, but I'm in complete agreement with that. It's kind of a can of worms. So until we have a new master plan, we might want to leave that alone. Anybody have any thoughts about it?
Seems logical. Zoning ordinance goes to the master plan.
Okay.
I'm good with it.
All right, well, we'll just leave it at that. Okay, let's move on. You want to throw that plate up again, Christine? There we go. So now we come to the election of officers, supposed to take place annually. It doesn't always. We have to elect a new chairperson, a vice chairperson, a secretary, and the zoning administrator.
I'll make a motion that we keep the current officers as it is, as far as the chair and the vice chair.
Secretary and zoning administrator as well. Zoning administration.
Yeah. Our secretary would be Mr. Jay Foltz, correct?
Right.
And our zoning administrator, do we have one?
That would be Cindy Wilson.
I'm sorry, Mrs. Wilson. Yes. Now I sound like the guy in Dennis the Menace. And, dating ourselves, right?
Well, we can have anybody want to second them?
I will second.
Okay. Cindy, you want to do the roll call?
Grandstaff,
Yes.
Smiles,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Carr,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Stegner,
Yes.
Stevens, Fowler.
Yes.
I'm not sure what happened to Stevens.
He probably turned his sound off.
Okay.
Yes.
And also, can I ask?
Yes. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. Thank you, Tom. And Stegner, I just want to ask Nolan, am I pronouncing his last name correctly?
Care.
His Care. I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay.
That's okay.
All right.
Okay, well, now we move on to unfinished business. We've included a discussion about the master plan. Mr. Casson and I talked the other day COVID has really put the brakes on everything. As everybody knows, and we discussed foregoing any in-person community discussion about the master plan in favor of what we're doing tonight, a Zoom meeting, because we need to get going. So I don't know, do we want to, I could make a motion that we proceed electronically so that we can get this done. In fact, I will make that motion. Anybody want to second that motion?
I'll second. Can I have a question after that?
You can have a question before we vote if you want.
Okay, yes. You said proceed electronically, so we'll all hook into Mr. Cassian and have this discussion. Is that what I'm understanding?
We will have a community meeting via Zoom, which allows the entire community in rather than meet in one big room.
Okay.
So everybody can make their comments. It's just that it wouldn't be in person because we can't wait anymore. We have no, I mean, I would say we're a year behind, Mr. Casson. Is that accurate? Is he not hearing us?
He's on mute.
Let's see if we can't get him in.
There we go. I'm sorry. I'm suggesting that in addition to Zoom meetings, that we post the parts of the master plan online and probably even have some type of survey for the residents to look at it and voice their opinions too. So give
Good
another
idea.
opportunity.
Good idea.
Okay, just curious. I think we're about a year behind on this project, right?
I believe we are very close to it.
Okay. So what do we want to do? We'll make a motion to proceed with the master plan electronically, one. Provide for a public survey, number two. And what was the other one you
Well,
suggested?
that's just the post parts of the master plan online.
Oh, yeah.
I think by you just saying electronically covers it all.
Sure, okay. Well, so then let's make a motion to proceed electronically, and that would include surveys and, the posting the master plan as it is, et cetera.
I'll renew that motion again for exactly that.
Okay,
Second.
With the addition of what Mr. Cassian said, as far as posting and the survey.
okay. So Cindy, you got something written down? We can.
Yes, I do. Mhm.
Okay, you want to let us know what it is, please?
Yeah, there was a motion by Stegner to proceed electronically with the master plan. And also I just put little bullet points that provide public survey and also post parts of master plan online.
Okay, everything electronically. I thought Mr. Fowler made that motion.
Sure.
Yes.
And then Grant staff seconded.
Okay,
Yes.
Okay, that motion is on the table. Motion to proceed electronically with our master plan. Roll call vote. Cindy, go ahead. And
Stevens,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
and Stegner.
Yes. Motion passes. Let's move
Smiles
on.
was a yes too.
Oh, I'm
Yeah.
sorry, Mr. Smiles.
That's all right.
And Smiles.
Okay,
We
let's
tried
move on.
hard.
Excuse me, if I could ask a quick question. Do you have
Sure.
a plan for picking a date of when you want that to happen?
Mr. Casson, how soon can you start posting?
I should be able to start posting within 2 or 3 weeks.
Okay, you want to set a date of, I don't know, March 1st?
March 1st for what? I'm sorry.
To begin posting electronically and call for meetings with the community.
Sure, I can have that started by then, no problem at all.
Okay,
Why don't we just have it the date of our regular meeting?
And then post it after it.
That would be March 4th. Would be our March meeting.
Oh,
I certainly would suggest that we get it online first.
yeah.
We have meetings on it.
We could postpone the meeting for a couple of days.
I'd feel more comfortable if I came back with you with like a calendar of appropriate dates that I could send to you, Mr. Stegner.
Sure.
How about April?
Yeah,
Post it
that's-
online April.
That's perfect.
Okay.
Have it done by then.
You want to wait till April then?
Yeah, how about April 1st? Would that be okay with you, Mr. Chair?
That's fine with me. Go ahead. So you want to make the motion?
Okay. I'll make a motion that we do the electronic. Well, you want to get it out before the April meeting, correct? You're going to use March?
Well, Mr.
March?
I'll get it out in March, but the meeting we'd have would be in April.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that way the
Then
people
the
have,
governor will lifted the sanctions.
that way people gotta have time to digest what they're reading.
Yeah.
Okay. And the survey, you get the surveys back too then at that point.
Yep.
So then Cindy, my next question to you is, will you have a time limit on the surveys once they're put out or online?
Well, if they're put out in, we're saying that it's going to be, the survey will be put out in March.
Mm-hmm.
And then we'd be able to hold a meeting in April. So that would be a month.
So you can put 3 weeks response time or maybe something like that
Yeah.
on your, okay. And that then everybody's not rushing it and you can actually
Right.
get a better read on what's going on.
Mr. Casson, people will be able to make comment even past that deadline though, right?
Oh, yeah. Once the planning commission holds a public hearing to approve it, there's an additional 73-day comment period that the state requires.
Right. So the deadline's kind of arbitrary. You just put it up there and
Right.
we'll go from
Exactly.
there. So, okay, Mr. Fowler, did you want to make that motion?
Yes, I'll make that motion to put it, was April 1st or
March 1st for posting.
March 1st? Okay. Make the language for me, Jim, and I'll
Okay,
agree to it.
we'll make a motion that Mr. Casson post the most recent and complete master plan information online with requests for commentary by March 1st. And we reconvene our April meeting to discuss results, et cetera.
I'll second that.
Okay. So the motion on the table is what I just described, which is April 1st for posting. And then at a regular March meeting, we'll take a look at the responses and further discussion about master plan, what we're going to do. That's what's on the table. So let's do roll call. Cindy, please.
Stevens,
Yes.
Care,
Here's a yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Stegner,
Yes.
Smiles,
Yes.
Motion carries. So now we move on to our rental property ordinance and our blight elimination ordinance. I think our November meeting, we discussed this and we were going to make suggestions as to changes, improvements, additions and subtractions. And so far, all I've heard is from Mr. Fowler. He wants to make exceptions for family in the rental property ordinance. You want to talk about that, Mr. Fowler?
Well, there's, parents love to get the kids out of the house. So basically kids are supporting the house, making the house payments that second homes that families do own. So I think we should exclude those from the rental property ordinance.
Would we be limiting it to just blood direct family relatives or cousins and etc.?
Blood family.
Well, I think we should define family. So we're not including people you meet on ancestry.com and, you know, that kind of thing. So, so we need to define that, you know, in,
Could I ask Zach to explain that a little bit? I guess I'm not quite sure what that all means.
Well, let's just, for instance, Tom, if you have a house and then you move out of your house to another house and your kids want someplace to live and you put them up in that house, so they're either making your mortgage payment, and that's what I'm saying.
Oh, okay.
So you haven't sold the second house, you still own the second house.
Okay. And how does that tie in? I guess forgive me for still not quite understanding. How does that tie in? We're talking about a blight ordinance now or what? Or did I miss something?
No, it wasn't a blight ordinance. It was I think the thing was registration of properties.
rental property ordinance. It's the
Property
rental-
ordinance of rentals.
Yes.
You were treating
Okay, so if you had blood family move, let's say that, let's use an example. Let's say that Kelly and I decided to move into the Douglas house, since you guys, we all know each other here. And I wanted to rent to my children. The ordinance for rental wouldn't apply because they're my kids, right?
Correct.
Okay, all right. I just want to make sure I understood that. I don't disagree, Zach. I just wasn't sure what you meant.
So to be clear, you would be exempting family from rental property inspection by the village.
Hey, okay.
That's what you're suggesting.
Oh, yeah. Okay. All right. I thought you were just speaking. Yes.
Yeah, I don't like that.
I don't know that I agree with that either.
Well, maybe we research.
I love my children, Zach, but I at the same time, I would expect them to maintain and do the things that were right.
Correct.
You know, and
Correct.
they all have their own minds today, and I would just be a little bit concerned about opening that door, because I think people would conflict with that.
Well,
That's just my opinion.
Okay. Hey, and that's well respected. Being that, you know, each one of us will be responsible because we raise our kids to take care of our stuff. And when they move into your stuff, they're taking care of your stuff. And I'm not disagreeing with the can of worms of which we might be opening, but to put this on the same basis as just any regular rental property, I think is just throwing the baby out with the bathwater, basically. It's just throwing it to the curb and say, here, no matter what, you have no advantage of having property and having your kids in it, even though you still live here. You're treated the same. I'm not saying that the separation between rental and homeowner occupied is completely different, but it is different in the sense that it is occupied by a family member.
Well, I personally think that if you're a landlord,
But see, you're not a landlord.
the rules got to apply across the board for everybody.
But you're not a landlord.
That's but I'm saying if you're letting your kids live there or they're renting from you, it doesn't matter. The rules, in my opinion, with respect to rentals, have to go across the board, regardless of the tenant. That's just my personal opinion. I'm just throwing it out there.
Okay.
Again, we both love our children, Zach, but I guarantee you that can be abused on every spectrum. And
I'm moving back.
I just don't want to see that. I just think the rules are the rules. I mean, if you're a tenant, regardless of who owns the property, you have to follow the rules across the board. So let's say you had two houses next to each other. One's a landlord renting to a young man who is no family relation whatsoever. And the next house next to him is a family that has lived here for 50 years. And that family, for whatever reason, doesn't maintain. And the kid that has no family ties does, but he has to follow the rules and they don't. I have a problem with that. And I have, I'm thinking of my own children with respect to that. And
I understand that, but then when you have your family, there is a responsibility in itself. And I understand the scenario that you just gave. But any self-respecting person or family person doesn't let their people's property go to hell. And the scenario you just described, that's exactly what happens. Whether the person in the middle is paying rent, but he's paying rent to you. So that person in the middle is paying rent to you because you're keeping the upkeep on it. But you're going to turn a blind eye to the one next to it, which you have your kids in. We weren't raised like that, and we wouldn't expect our kids to be raised like that or to do that, because each one of them would understand the skin that you have into the game with the rental next door. You want to keep the value up. And I guess that's what I'm putting out there is have faith in the people within the village of Romeo to maintain the integrity of the property.
Now, Zach, with all due respect, my feeling is simple. It's every piece of property needs to be maintained to the utmost that it can be. And no one should have an exception to that rule.
Okay.
I was a tenant when we were young men, and I maintained my landlord's property, and I rented from people here in town when I first came here, and I maintained that property as if it were my own, because there were rules set for that. And I just think that's a benefit to all the residents of the community, that all properties are maintained regardless of who's in there. It's either up to the landlord to make sure that happens, or it's up to the residents, it's the actual homeowner. And that's what keeps the community strong, keeps the community clean. I guess that's just my opinion on it, but I respect yours as well, Zach.
Well, I'm not going against the rules of rental property. I'm not going against that, because everybody has to maintain the integrity of the property. I'm just talking about as far as the rental ordinance in itself, the way it reads. So I understand the maintaining the upkeep of the property in order to keep property values up for the house next door to that, next door to that, next door to that. You don't let it run down. I mean,
but it's deeper than that, Zach. It's not the value issue. It's the safety issue as well. I mean,
value and safety.
I'm very, very, very careful, and you guys know what I own, and I'm very careful with what I do to maintain the safety of my tenants, and it's very, very important to me. And I think everybody should carry that feeling. I mean, it's a matter of personal responsibility and landlord responsibility that you maintain safety and upkeep, but to have a situation where you're exempting somebody because it's family. I'm sorry, Zach. I just have a problem with that, and that's just my opinion. We can vote on it and discuss it further.
Well,
I just as soon, if I could interject, I just soon have something in the ordinance. It doesn't matter if it's family or whatever. It's the piece of property, and we as the village expect certain things. I don't see the need to separate out for family or something like that.
And I agree with Mr. Grandstaff.
All right, let me interject here as chairman. I think I appreciate what Zach would like to do, but I think, as Mr. Stevens points out, you can't rely on somebody's good intentions. We have to write ordinance and law to make sure things happen. So I'm not sure where to go here. If Mr. Fowler has something more specific to add to this proposed ordinance, I think that'd be great. And I mean, really, because somebody's family, are you going to forego the transfer of ownership inspection? I don't think you want to do that. So I don't know, Mr. Fowler.
Well,
We can
let me get some further information on this and have it. I can email it to you guys within the next week or so. You can.
Did
Well,
we get a second to Zach's motion?
Well, hold on just a minute.
Get a
here.
motion.
I haven't made.
So we can push this up to council and say, go ahead, and maybe you can make your changes at the council level.
Well, it's not ready to go to council. If we're having discussion here at this level, then it's not ready for a council decision.
Okay.
Well, the thing I would like to add to this is if I can get some more information to this board within the next week or so, email you the stuff, and if we can discuss it over emails, then we can discuss it then before it comes.
With all due respect, Mr. Chairman,
Chairman.
can I interject?
Yeah.
I
Yes.
just wanted to share a bit of conversation that I had with planner Mr. Casson today. That this is not a zoning ordinance. This is a code enforcement ordinance, so it is to be adopted by village council.
Right.
We put it before the planning commission just to offer recommendations and input, not that you would have to approve it or hold a public hearing on behalf. So that's why it's really just your recommendation to move it forward to village council. If that doesn't happen, I mean, this has been sort of sitting on your plate now for nearly 6 months. And I think it's time that we just move this forward one way or the other.
Well, that's what I'm suggesting, that we move it towards
I'm going to vote.
council.
I make a motion, may I? Can I?
Yep.
I
Yeah.
make a motion that we move, and I'm not sure how to word this, folks.
Accept ordinance as is.
Well, not ordinance as is, but Zach, if you want your request or your position to be heard, it's got to be, we will be worded in such a way to take it to council so that you know what they're talking about. I don't know quite how to word that. Anybody wants to help me, I am welcome to hear that suggestion, but I'm willing to make the motion, or somebody else can make the motion.
Mr. Fowler can make his suggestions at the council level. There's nothing we don't have to direct him to do that.
Well, then I make the motion that we move the discussion of, help me with the words, what it's called, the rental ordinance. Is that what we're looking at here?
Rental property ordinance as is. I think that's what you want to say.
Okay, and that'll be fine. We can add that into the council for discussion and eventual approval.
Anybody want a second?
Mr. Webb, second.
Okay, the motion that we have
Question,
on-
Mr. Chairman.
Go ahead.
Miles here, if I may. When you're talking about a family member and you've been talking about one house, what if you have 4 or 5 kids? And now you have 4 or 5 houses in the village of Romeo. So you own 4 or 5 houses that are basically rentals, and you have to pay no fee, but everybody else in the village has to pay these fees and live up to these ordinances.
Well, Mr. Fowler can make those arguments at the council level. And yes. And so Mr. Stevens has made a motion.
Can I answer Mr. Not answer you, but just add a little bit to Mr. Smiles's comment.
Go
As
ahead.
far as the 4 or 5 houses, I mean, congratulations to whatever family still holds on to that in the village, but their property taxes are being paid by that individual. I mean, I'm not against the rental ordinance, not against that at all. I'm not against it. So let's get that perfectly clear. But if family does, and that's if this family has 4 or 5 houses and they have 4 boys or 4 girls that's in those houses, and they're making their parents' mortgage payment, and they're keeping the houses up, and they're maintaining the values, and they're paying the property taxes. That's that in itself.
Mr. Fowler, can I ask?
Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to know, so okay, 4 or 5 houses, I agree with you. If you own 4 or 5 houses in the village, you're doing pretty well. If you live in one, are you removing your PRE exemption from the other 4?
Good point. You still maintain your ownership at the address that you live at.
So what we have now is Mr. Fowler is on record as saying he totally agrees with this.
Yeah.
So, well, it's true.
That's good, Jim.
and Mr. Stevens has made a motion that we move this forward to council.
I'll second Mr. Stevens' motion. How's that?
Okay.
Well, Mr. Webb seconded that.
Oh, all right then. All right then.
So I just need to do a roll call vote.
So we have a motion on the table from Mr. Stevens and seconded by Mr. Webb to move this forward to council and let them have their way with it. So roll call, please.
Dagner,
Yes.
Fowler,
No.
Hall,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes.
Webb.
Yes.
Hare,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
and Smiles.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes.
There we go.
All right, now let's move on to the blight elimination ordinance. Does anybody have comment?
I feel personally a little remiss in this, and I'm feeling very strongly about this ordinance. We've got to really do something, and with the dumpster situation it is, I know the whole situation's tight with money. I do believe strongly in the dumpster corrals. But we've got situations now where, we've got dumpsters without proper lids on them. We've got animals running around. We got blight going on with garbage flying everywhere. And when it flies off the trucks and it's not taken care of properly, it ends up in everybody's property. I don't care. Well, maybe not in certain areas where some of us don't get the wind where it blows to. But I guess I'm looking for guidance and work with the commission to find out what we can do to just clean everything up. I have a situation next to me, and I don't want to use that as because it's next to me, because I maintain that particular parking lot in the summertime at my own accord, and I do it for a reason, because I don't want garbage everywhere. But those dumpsters are wide open, the lids are broke. They shouldn't be on the particular property they're on. If it's used by multiple restaurant individuals in areas who have property where they could build pads and corrals on their own, that needs to take place. I don't leave my garbage running around. I pick up garbage off the street on Newberry constantly. But that's not the only place it's a mess. And I feel very, very strongly, it's a bad thing when people come in to our community and see what that looks like. And quite frankly, I'm looking for the commission to help with answers of what do we do? What do we do? And I really think that's one of the most important things for 2021 that we take a look at. Everybody's worried about COVID and disease. Well, guess what? That ain't real clean either. And that's just the way I feel about it. So sorry for giving the speech, but I'm looking for my commission members to help me figure out how do other communities do it? How do we make this happen? I don't know that there's money for corrals, but I think the corral that's on the southwest quadrant, I think it works. At least it's contained. So anybody, I'm done. I'm done preaching.
Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
can I ask a question, please?
Certainly.
Tom, are you still associated with the DDA?
No,
It's because
no, but you know who is, Zach. My lovely wife is the chair now, and her and I have talked of that extensively. I don't know that that's a DDA issue.
because isn't all the majority of the stuff that you're talking about with the dumpsters that's in the DDA area, isn't it?
Well, certainly it's in the DDA area, and yes, we were able to at one time build the corral when I was on the DDA. We were able to build the corral in the quadrant to where I mentioned behind the office pub and everything there. And I certainly would like to see some kind of corral operation in every one of the quadrants. The one thing I found interesting when I was on the DDA was that the tax that all the building owners pay, and even though many of you know I'm a building over there, the situation is this: a majority of the money, and someone can correct me if I'm wrong, a majority of the money that was in the DDA budget went to the southwest quadrant. I always complained, and I wasn't an owner of that property at that time, but I always complained that the other quadrant building owners probably should say something, because you're paying that tax too. And a majority of that money was spent in that quadrant and not in yours. Now, I know there's issues with particular property owners that don't want to give up their parking lots. That's a whole nother discussion with respect to getting rid of building ordinances that say you have to have so many parking spaces. Again, that's going a little deep. But again, I'm asking my commission members to think about what we could do at least to get people to have proper dumpsters that are maintained, enough dumpsters to service the amount of garbage that they're throwing away, and hold them accountable when they don't do it.
Well, let me step in here. We do have code and ordinance on the books already. A lot of what you're talking about is enforcement. And I think it'd be a good idea to go before council and ask them, what's going on. Voice your complaints before council. After all, we're looking at this blight ordinance here, which, as Ms. Malzahn has pointed out, Madam President, that, this is their thing. They just want us to look at it. So
this is the DDA's thing or the council's thing?
the council.
Okay.
So
does the planning commission have any reason even to discuss this, or should it go back to the DDA?
They want us to look at it and make a suggestion, I suppose. Madam President, are you still on with us?
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm here. It's just, the more eyes that lay on this, the more collaborative thinking can be done and ways to problem solve. So that's why a lot of these are sent to you, just because you have a diverse board with a separate set of skills that village council does. And so we look for your input. I'm asking for your input on, how do we make sure that it's encompassing to the problems that we face, and offer some suggestions on how it could probably, be maintained or enforced, or who might be able to fund that. So that's why it's before you.
Even looking as far as to see, with certain properties that are not restaurant oriented, or if they are restaurant oriented, then they should be responsible to have a proper dumpster system on their property if we're not going to have corrals. And we've had situations where people have moved the grease pits into areas where we finally had to say, wait a minute, you can't have this here. And if anybody thinks that you're not going to get critters running around and eventually issues with that, I've witnessed it myself, but not just in the quadrant I'm in, but in the quadrants around everywhere else. I think the southwest quadrant, if you really look at it, the corrals really helped. And I know it's a matter of money, but I guess I really appreciate you guys. We get together and take a look at it and make suggestions. And I know I'm going to be taking it up with my lovely wife, who is now the chair of the DDA. So
One other thing, if I may, just to add, we have a single waste hauler for a purpose in the village and amongst our residents, so that we have one source. There's, a common standard that's set. For the most part, everybody has, the same sort of containers out there. I looked at, when we approved that waste hauler contract, adding the central business district to it. That's paid by our taxes, that pays that waste hauler out of the general fund. And for whatever reason, the central business district was excluded from that. So the business owners pay for their own services. That's why we have a variety of different containers from different companies all lined up. I thought that would be a way to solve it. Also thought that if we had just a dumpster ordinance in the central business district, if we need to regulate where they can be, how many, or ask for a dumpster sharing agreement. There's an agreement put in Port Huron that I believe the DDA does with their businesses, and they have instituted a contract that everybody agrees to pay a certain fee, and then there's just one dumpster in each allocated area. I don't believe they're in corrals, but I do believe they're in the municipal parking areas, so you don't have to have the expense of actually building that corral. But still, I believe their DDA is organizing and coordinating that, so it's not still taxpayer dollars, but there is still some sort of control put in place.
And Christina, also, I think we could take advantage, and I hate to use the word advantage, but with some of the businesses, let's take, for instance, the northeast quadrant where the gas station is, and kind of get with the owners of the gas station and create a community partnership with them to say, boy, wouldn't it be nice if you really would sponsor, a nice dumpster corral where the business owners in this quadrant would maybe pay a small fee, or maybe just as a community leader, as a Shell gas station or a BP gas station. Maybe that would be a great thing for you guys to do as a community situation to show that you really, really care, which we know they do. And I'm not trying to be sarcastic or being a smart aleck, but why not? Why not ask them? I mean, we can ask those people, can you do that? Could you help us with that? We really do appreciate you being here, but we would like a little assistance in that respect. That's just a suggestion on my part.
Hey, Lisa, you're the chair of what organization? In the DDA?
Director of the DDA.
Okay. There's your person we need to talk to.
The only thing I can tell you is that you cannot spend public money on private property.
And that's everything in a nutshell. Well, in that case.
Is it? Because we're not asking to spend public money on a public property. We're asking them to spend their money and donate the opportunity to keep the community clean.
Well, we do have, as I said, we have code and ordinance on the books already. So some of this is enforcement.
I agree with you, Mr. Stern. I do. Yes, it's enforcement.
So
I'll start writing tickets. That's about it.
So I'm going to make a motion that we move this blight ordinance back to council with a suggestion that maybe they can look at enforcement problems within the CBD.
May I second that motion?
Okay. So on the table, we have a motion to move the blight ordinance to council and suggest to them that they look at dumpster problems within the CBD. Cindy?
Okay, 1 second. Stegner,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Smiles,
Yes.
Care,
Yes.
Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay, that motion passes. Mr. Care, would you like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Sure. I would like to make a motion to adjourn this meeting.
seconded by
second.
Mr. Webb.
Okay, Cindy, roll call, please.
Stegner,
Yes.
Webb,
Yes.
Fowler,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Grandstaff,
Yes.
Stevens,
Yes.
Smiles,
Yes.
Care.
Yes.
Motion passes. Thank you,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night,
Thank you.
everybody.
Good night.
Night.
Good night.